What's going on? It's your host, the most real Taylor Nicole. We back at it again with another episode for y'all. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Welcome to another episode of Movies with Tay, where we take a movie, we recap a movie, we break a movie down, okay, and then we give it a good old rating. All right, and I might throw in a splash of notes here and there, but nonetheless, we're gonna recap this movie, and if I don't make you want to at least be interested about the movie by the end of the show, then you let me know. And if you ain't seen the movie yet and I make you interested in watching it, I'll tell you where to go watch it, so go watch it. Unless you gotta pay for it and you don't want to pay for it, and I understand. But nonetheless, the host with the most is always gonna bring you a TV show or a movie. And speaking of TV shows, I hope y'all know TV shows with Tay is coming out pretty soon. That's where we're going to pause Movies with Tay and talk about some TV shows. And let's just say that one's going to be a little interesting, because it's going to be a little different. See, this is Movies with Tay. So I watch an entire movie and I recap it, right? But see, with TV shows with Tay, I might just pick one specific episode. And I might horn in on one specific scene and just talk about that one specific scene that might lead into me talking about the entire season or the characters. You never know. TV shows with Tay is going to be very different. So just stay with me. That's all I'm going to say. Just stay with me. But nonetheless, let's get into it. So, like I said, this is Movies with Tay. This is episode 55. Episode 55 is The United States versus Billie Holiday. Running time is about 2 hours, 11 minutes. The director for this film... Oh, wait, I skipped something. My bad. The release date of this film is 2/26/21. The director of this film is Mr. Lee Daniels. Producers, I gave up on looking up all that. I wasn't about to do all that. You can watch this film on Hulu and Disney+. So, who's the actors and actresses, you say? I want to start from the bottom and up. So we got Miss Dana Guerre as Sadie, Divine Joy Randolph as Rosalind, Evan Ross as Agent Sam Williams, Tone Bell as John Levy, Tyler James Williams as Lester Young, Miss Lawrence as Miss Freddie, Trevante Rose as Jimmy Fletcher, Eric LaRae Harvey as James Monroe, and Miss Andrea Day as Billie Holiday. That's the cast and crew, and that's what we're going to do. So, if you made it this far, I want to say thank you for watching. As always, I love it when y'all watch. I would love it even more if we could start hitting the thumbs up button to get this to circulate even more. And you guys can start leaving comments. Do them both. And if you don't like, if you're not the type of person who likes to share content, but you like to watch it at least, if you watch it, even if you only watched up until halfway through the recap, hit the like button at least. Leave me a comment. I'd appreciate it wholeheartedly. And if you're into subscribing to channels, subscribe to mine. I'd gladly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the next segment that we all know is the best, besides from the notes. It's telling the film. So, let's talk about Miss Billie Holiday. So, the movie opens up with us meeting Miss Billie Holiday on May 3rd of 1957. She's talking to Reginald Lord Devine, and he's an interviewer, a journalist, if you will, and he's interviewing her about being a black woman in America, basically, in America. And he's talking to her about her song Strange Fruit, and why does she keep getting in trouble about this song Strange Fruit? Why does she keep singing this song knowing it's getting her into some trouble? So it ends up going back 10 years, back into 1947 to be exact, to show Miss Holiday at the Cafe Society where she's performing. And she's singing, doing her thug thizzle. And at the end of the show, she's met she's in the little dressing room, I think is what you call it. And her doorman slash security slash husband at the time was letting fans in to come and meet her, right? And one of the fans was Mr. Jimmy Fletcher. And if you already seen this movie, you know where this is going. Well, Mr. Jimmy Fletcher was one of the fans that wanted to meet her, and her husband, Monroe, was like, nah. He let the other people in though, let them meet her, whatever the case may be. Well, Jimmy was trying to meet. I was getting ready to say why, but I can't tell you just yet. But Jimmy wanted to come in and meet her. Apparently, he writes her letters and all this other jazz. Well, Jimmy is an army man, and he goes home to his mama since he can't meet, you know, Billy because her husband said no. He goes home to his mama where he's supposed to have dinner. Well, not home, but he goes to his mother's home to have dinner. He's late. He lies and tells his mama that he's not going to be wearing his uniform for much longer and how he's going to be working for Billie Holiday. And he tells her all these bogus ass lies because he ain't even get to meet Billy. How you going to be working for? So Billy's in the movie, Billy's holding like auditions for sax players, instrument players, people to join her band to help expand her band, if you will. Well, while she's in there having her meeting, her husband and her manager, I think is who he is, maybe attorney. No, attorney. He was her attorney. Her attorney's in there. They telling her pretty much they cut her song "Strange Fruit" out the show. They don't want her to do that song anymore. And uh, she finds out that Harry Anslinger is one of the FBI agents who's been watching her and doesn't want her to do the song anymore because of good old what's that boy's name? He's a full front. I can't think of his name right now. Let me scroll down. I'll tell you in a second. Because Joe is her attorney. That's her attorney's name. But what's his name? J. Edgar Hoover. That's his name. I couldn't think of his racist ass name. But J. Edgar Hoover. He, of course, is the head of the FBI. He's in control. And he's telling Anslinger and a bunch of other people that her song "Strange Fruit" isn't good for the United States. It's not good for people. It makes people feel different emotions that he don't want them to feel, basically. In other words, the song is about black folks and what we've been going through and seeing us hanging from trees. And that ain't going to be good for folks to hear that Negroes is being hung from a tree. So, in other words, make her shut up. Like people didn't already know that was going on back in the day. But, that was that. So she's going back and forth with her husband, Monroe, and her attorney, Joe, about the song. And they like her husband, Monroe, very abusive man, might I add, was pretty much like, nah. I got a gnat flying around, sorry. Her husband, Monroe, was like, nah. I said you're not doing the song. He was very aggressive, very abusive. But, later on in the movie, we find out that Billy is, it's hard to say. I can't say attracted to it, but traumatized to it, so she's used to it. So, it is what it is. But anyway, so on April 3rd of 1947, when we got to meet Anslinger, Harry Anslinger, that is, when we get to meet this gentleman, we find out, that he's hosting a meeting with other white folks and letting them know that they need to come together to figure out how to stop Billie Holiday from singing that damn song. And they're coming up with all kind of ways and things. And one guy points out, he's like, well, we can't arrest her for singing a song. That's not how that works. Can't arrest somebody for singing. So someone yells out that she's a drug addict and that she's on that stuff. And Harry's like, okay, that's how we'll be able to get her. Is to arrest her, get her locked up for a minute so she can't sing the song. So there goes their plan. Their plan is to get her caught up with drugs so they can get her off the streets, if you will. Like she's a drug dealer herself. So So one thing that they said in the little meeting was, what the Harry said was, is that he's got her husband in the bag, aka they had Monroe on payroll. So he was down for it. He was all for, getting her to do what they asked, but she wasn't for it. So Billy has another show, and James and Anslinger are both in the crowd. She sees them both. She know who Anslinger is, and I forget who James was exactly. I think I meant to put Jimmy Fletcher. I meant to put Jimmy, not James. I don't know who the hell James is. I messed up my own notes. Anyway, but they're both in the crowd, right? And they're watching her perform. So after her performance, Jimmy decides to bring her a bouquet of flowers and, gets close to her and he talks to her and they share a little bond, if you will, right? She's dancing and prancing and having a good time in front of this Jimmy Fletcher guy. She don't really know him for real. I guess he just writes her letters, but that she does know, but she don't know much about him. Besides the fact that he wears a army suit, looks like an army military man. So this ain't funny, but this threw me off. This was the way Jimmy looked was what was funny. So when they was kicking it and hanging out, I guess you could say they became friends in that moment. Well, while Billy was kicking it, chilling, or whatever you want to call it, with him, the next day, the next scene, because they left off on good terms. They was whatever, smiling, kiki. Well, the next day he goes to go see when time her show starts. You know how back in the day they used to put the show on the little billboard screen thing, right? So he goes to go see what the time the show starts. Finds out there's no show because she had a death in the family. He goes to the uh, church house where the funeral was, and he's very apologetic, very sympathetic, very saying empathetic and everything else. But then he finds out her damn dog died. He looks at her like, girl, what the all this over your dog? Now, I am a dog lover, so I know how that pain is. But he sure was looking at her like, girl, you had a whole funeral over a dog? Cancel a show over the dog? But he still shows up, show her support. So it ends up jumping back to her interview with Reginald. And Reginald brings up Tallulah Bankhead, and he insinuates that her and Tallulah Bankhead were partners, if you will. And Miss Freddie interjects and pretty much lets him know, like, hey, this ain't what we came here for. But she engages in the conversation, if you will, and it goes back to the back in the days time, and we meet Tallulah Bankhead, and we meet her with Billy going to Tallulah's I guess apartment maybe, and they was trying to get on the elevator, and the elevator man, the doorman, wouldn't let Billy onto the elevator because it's supposed to be a whites only elevator. So he was explaining to Billy he didn't want to lose his job for letting her on the elevator. So he was telling her he really just can't let her on. She need to get on the other elevator. And she was like, I ain't riding no other goddamn elevator, And Tallulah was like, look, I'll go get on the other elevator with you. I'll go get on the other service elevator. It's not the end of the world. And to Billy, it was. So Billy storms out. Now it goes straight to another show for Billy. She's on the stage and she sees all the FBI, police. She see everybody. She see all of them sitting there watching her. And she starts to sing Strange Fruit. Soon as she starts to sing it, they bum rush the stage. I mean, bum rush the stage. And Lester, he snatches her off the stage. They take out running. He throws her in, snatches her off the stage, and they go out the back. And he tells her they need to get in the car. They get in the car, they drive off. Well, the next thing you know, she goes to her other boo thing's house. Now, see, Billie is married to Monroe, but she was only married to Monroe for a certain amount of time. And by the end of this show, I'll tell you the time frame so you can kind of piece together the puzzles. But Billie was married to Monroe, but was messing with other men throughout her marriage with Monroe and her other two husbands that she had. Well, her boo thing that she messing with was also one of her husbands that she had ended up marrying. But I'll get to that in a second. So she's over there with her boo thing, and they getting high off heroin because that's what they did. They did heroin, and she's wanting to get high again, or they are high, should I say? And while they chilling, they gets like I think there's like a knock on the door or something like that. She goes to open the door, and boom, FBI comes in. They come in, and soon as she looks up, guess who's walking through the door? Mr. Jimmy Fletcher. So Mr. Fletcher's walking through the door, and she's looking at him like, you dirty motherfucker. I sat there and I talked to you. I bonded with you. And you was playing. You was two-timing me this entire time, you bony son of a bitch. So she strips butt naked in front of him because she like, I ain't got no drugs on me. In which there was drugs in the house, but it wasn't no drugs on her. So I kind of don't know how they was able to even arrest her for possession when she technically didn't have it on her person, but that's neither here nor there. They arrest Billie, take her to jail. She ends up going to court, and her attorney, Joe, told her that they'll just send her to a hospital to get clean and, this, that, and the third. Well, that wasn't the case. They wanted her to flip on her supplier. She wouldn't flip on the supplier, so they threw her ass into jail for a year and a day. And she looking at Joe like, what the fuck? You said I wasn't going to go to prison. Well, she went to prison. So, after she, gets her time or her prison time, you get to see Jimmy and Agent Sam discuss his arrest and his bust of Billie Holiday on drugs, blah, blah, blah. And they're kind of gloating about it, but in the back of Jimmy's mind, you can look at him and tell he's kind of questioning if he did the right thing or not. But, a job has to be done. A job is a job. So, Jimmy's mother and him, I had to think about this because I was trying to make sure I said it right. So, Jimmy and his mother have a conversation, and his mama pretty much finds out he lied to her, that he wasn't her bodyguard or nothing like that. He didn't work for her at all. He's actually setting her up to get her arrested. And she finds out that he really is an FBI agent. So this whole time she didn't even know what her son did, but she finds out he's actually an FBI agent. And she finds out that he lied to her and he lied to Billie. And his mama tells him pretty much like, you scandalous as fuck for that. Why would you lie to that woman just as much as you lied to me as your mother? That you thought that was okay? You lied to that woman. You didn't even let her know who you really were. You lied to her, got close to her, and then you did her wrong. She's like, have you ever listened to any of her music? Do you even know anything about her? And his mother made him open his eyes up to who Billie was, and because of that, he started to listen to her music. He started to pay attention to who she really was. He even meets up with Miss Freddie, and him and Miss Freddie have a conversation about how Billie grew up and how Billie is only used to men putting their hands on her and treating her, as if she's some type of sex doll, basically, because she don't know no other form of love, and how she was molested. And he goes into a whole story about Billie Holiday and makes Jimmy open his eyes, and it gives him a different change of heart. So with that, Jimmy ends up going to go see Ann Slinger. And Ann Slinger tells him pretty much, I need you to go lie to Billie. Tell her you're sorry. Make nice. Because when she gets released from prison, I need you to bust her ass again. Because she's going to go back to doing drugs again. And I need you to bust her ass again. So Jimmy goes and does what Anslinger says, but with a twist. He goes to see Billie. He does go to apologize, but he also lets her know that you don't need to trust anybody. When you leave here, it's going to be people trying to get you caught up. So don't trust nobody. Stay clear, people. Stay to yourself. Don't trust nobody. Do your thing. And she like, man, who the fuck are you to try to tell me what to do, motherfucker? You just set me up, and I'm supposed to trust you. I'm supposed to trust what you tell me. But he was just like, all right, do what you want to do. But he pretty much told her, as soon as you leave here, they're planning on setting your ass up. So do what you will with that. So she gets released March 16th, 1948. So if you could do math, that means when she did a year and a day, that means she went in on March 15th of 1947. But anyway, so she gets released, and Lester and Rosalind are there to meet her with some white dude who is like a music dude or whatever the case may be. And he tells her he can help her get back on track with the music and this, that, and the third, and get Billie, right back into the game. So Billie starts focusing on working out versus getting high, even smoking cigarettes. Like, she wouldn't even smoke a cigarette. She was trying to stay focused and not have a adrenaline rush from the drugs because she wanted to be clean to avoid going back to jail, right? So before she goes and does her show, she asks the maid, to go grab the suit that she wore, the pinstripe suit she wore the day that she got convicted and sentenced to prison. I think it was for possession of narcotics. I think that's what it was. But anyway, after she gets done praying, she goes and has her show. Now, when she has her show, she has her show at the Carnegie Hall in front of black and white crowds. The crowd is mixed up. She had people screaming for her to do Strange Fruit. She was like, can't do the show, can't do that song. But I can give you guys a show. And that's what she do. She ended up giving them a show. She sings and does her thing. And Slinger and his wife are in the crowd. They're watching. They waiting for her to do. And this is so crazy because there was a ton of FBI agents in the crowd at her show. They were waiting for her to do Strange Fruit so they can try to bust her again for narcotics. Ain't that crazy? Y'all in tuxes and dressed to the nines, and y'all here hoping to catch a motherfucker singing a song. Craziness. So, ironically, the song that she was singing, since she didn't do Strange Fruit, she did a whole different song. Now, the song she was singing, this is how you know people don't pay attention to music or lyrics, because the song that she was singing was basically saying, if I'm getting my ass beat by my man, that's nobody's business but mine. I'm gonna love him anyway. I'm gonna stay with him anyway. Her song was about abuse, and people was in there singing, having a good time, smiling, kikiing about a song about abuse. And what threw me was, a song about abuse is less detrimental than hearing a song about black people being hung to Hoover. If that don't spark racism in your mind, I don't know what else will. Because why are you more concerned about a song telling the truth about racism and what's going on in today's time than a song about me getting my ass whooped? You would think you wouldn't want people singing about getting their ass whooped. I digress. So, after the show, Billie finds out that her cabaret card, they're refusing to give it to her. They won't give her cabaret card, which is a card that is used for her to be able to sing in nightclubs, juke houses, anywhere that she wants to and get paid. That's what it's for. Well, she goes off on the white man. She snaps on him because he, pretty much tell her, like, what are you, high? And it triggers something in her. But I don't know if so this part I'm not sure. I don't know if she really was high, because she does say, yeah, I'm high. I don't know if she was really high. I'm assuming because one of the clips showed her in like a bathroom stall and it looked like she was getting high. So I'm assuming she might have really been high and that wasn't like a joke. And that could be why she snapped. But anyway, basically, from what it seemed like, she ended up firing old buddy boy and moving on. And my bad. And basically, she moves on from dealing with old boy, I guess, because we don't see him no more. We don't see the white dude no more. But she ends up getting booked at John Levy's club. He's gonna pay her under the table to sing. And I want to say either Lester booked this or somebody else booked it for her. But the point is, she gets a gig singing at John Levy's spot, making some money. And the song that she sung at John Levy's was one called "Them Their Eyes." Um, and I wish I could remember the exact lyrics for "Them Their Eyes," but I might post a little bit of the song somewhere, like the lyrics aspects, if you will. Well, um, Agent Sam is in the crowd that night. He pretends to be like a trumpet musician. He plays the trumpet a little bit, and he can kind of sort of play the trumpet, so he can kind of get away and pretend to be a trumpet player. And this is basically their ammo. The ammo is to blend in with the natural crowd, so you don't know who they are, except for people like Harry Anslinger. People know exactly who that is. It's not that hard to tell, but all the peons you won't know unless you've seen them arrest somebody before or seen them at the police station. Other than that, you won't know who they are. Well, so Billy and John become a thing. And if I'm not mistaken, she was messing around with him while yeah, she was messing around with him, I think, while she was either messing around with her second husband. But it don't matter. That's not the point. I was just saying that because I'm trying to remember the storyline of who was who. But while she was in prison, I meant to bring this. They didn't say this in the movie. I just know it. Come on, goddamn it! This gnat is pissing me off. I'm sorry. They didn't say it in the movie, but I just know it based on the timeline. And when I was looking at stuff, while she was in prison, her and Monroe, her first husband, got a divorce. So, but she got released in March of 1948, and her first husband Monroe was divorced by 47. So that's why you don't hear no more about Monroe because he got the. So anyway, while she's there, like I said, her and John Levy become a little thing, right? But John Levy, has been scamming her on her money. He ain't been paying her on her money because she don't have her cabaret card. So he been fucking her on her money pretty much because he feel like he can. Well, they were supposed to have dinner, her, John, and Rosalind and the dog. Well, John decides to skip out on dinner with them and goes to handle business. Well, when he leaves, Louis McKay uh pulls up. And Rosalind, like, that dude is bad news. He is not no good. And, soon as she said that, that was Billy, that sparked Billy's interest. Soon as she said that. And he tells Billy, you can come have dinner with me, but Rosalind can't go. Nor can that funky ass dog. He didn't say that, but that's basically what he was thinking. So Billy gives Rosalind the dog and tells Rosalind, I'll see you later. Peace out. So she goes and has dinner with Louis McKay. Boom. Well, while that's going on, the next day, and Agent Ann Slinger pulls Tallulah Bankhead in and asks her a bunch of questions about Billy. He brings her in and starts harassing her pretty much about Billie Holiday, and she's like, "I don't know what you want me to tell you because ain't nothing for me to tell you." So she don't really say nothing, but her and Billy go and have a walk in the park, and they're talking, and she's telling Billy, like, it was kind of creepy, it was scary, I don't know why there's asking so many questions, but it was just a little odd. While they're talking, Louis McKay and his snow bunny are walking in the same park, and Billy and Louis McKay cross paths, and he tell her, he said, why don't we just ditch these snow bunnies and get into some real black shit. Took me out, honey. But Billy kept it G. She gave him a nod and kept it pushing. So At this point, Billie is starting to relapse, and her boo thing Joe, the one that she was messing around with when she was married to Monroe, she still deal with him from time to time. Well, she ends up calling him because she starts to relapse, and she starts to call him and ask him to help her get drugs, and he like, no ma'am, can't do it. And she like, come on bro. He like, nah girl, I'm tired of going to jail. Like, you should be tired of going to jail. We really truly should just stay clean. You've been clean this whole time, stay clean. She like, can't do it. She then robbed John Levy of his money, and you know, there's that. And her and Joe still got this thing going on. She ain't broke the thing for Joe, because she been messing with Joe for some time now. Well, when Billie stole Joe's, excuse me, not Joe, but when Billie stole John's money, she found a way to get high, and then she ended up getting high and going to Rosalind's doorstep, passing out right there, and Rosalind took her on in like a friend would. Well, she goes back to John's club the next day, maybe a couple days later, somewhere down the line, but she ends up going back to the club to pretend like nothing happened and to go sing. Well, her and John get into I meant to say John, not Joe, but her and John get into a little physical altercation, and because he knows she stole his money, because she ain't show back up the next day. So that's why I said I don't think it was the next day. I think it was a couple days later. But they end up getting into a physical altercation. He ends up busting her lip, blacking her eye, bruising her ribs, and she still go out there on that stage that night and sing. Well, while she's up there singing, she ain't paying no attention. But John is sitting in the crowd talking to Agent Sam, but she ain't paying no attention. She don't even peep game. And while they're in the crowd talking, she's singing, but she's scoping the crowd. She see Jimmy there. She see other people there, and she ain't paying real good attention to John, because it's the second time somebody to talk to one of her men, and she ain't picked up on it. Well, she ends up going to John's house and sitting in his bed. They was chilling, and he asked her. Well, he was at his desk, and she was in the bed, and he asked her, how come she ain't never thought about marriage before, and why she ain't never brought it up to him, and blah 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 blah. And she like, I ain't think you want to be married. And he like, yeah, of course I do, baby. And he tell her he gonna go grab her a gift. So he goes to the little fire pit stand, and he goes to go grab the gift. And when he goes to go grab the gift, he hands it to her, but he tries to slip heroin in her robe. And when he slips the heroin in her robe, simultaneously the FBI kicks in. Who's there? Jimmy. And he looking at her like, didn't I fucking tell you not to trust nobody? Why you can't listen, woman? So she looking at John like, you dirty son of a bitch. You really just tried to set me up? Really? And they take her in. But Jimmy Fletcher, he throws the case off, because he tells them pretty much it's impossible to say if it was really hers or if it was planted on her. It's not really too clear, because there was no signs of it in her system. There was no sign of her using it. She didn't have any needles or syringes or anything near her that implicate that she was going to use or that it was hers in the first place. So they dismissed the case. They threw it out on a hearsay ground. And Slinger was mad about that, because he like, your job wasn't supposed to get her off. You was up there stuttering and shit. I think he said he looked like Nat King Cole up there. He called him Step and Fetch It. And just very vulgar, disrespectful. Not the Nat King Cole part, but the Step and Fetch It part was very disrespectful. But anyway, so he pretty much tells him that she's going on tour, so you going with her. So now Jimmy has to follow behind her tour bus all over the place until he can catch her doing something. So 19, excuse me, April 3rd, 1949 is when she went on her tour. So they on the tour, they chilling, getting money. one of the shows they did, the manager dude gave them what they could, right? He paid them what they could and left it at that. Well, everybody's complaining about not getting money and not getting paid, and Lester's upset, Rosalind's upset, Miss Freddie's upset. Everybody complaining about not getting paid, but she paying the drug man, and they like, you could pay him, you could pay us, and she like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Y'all getting high just like I'm getting high, so I don't want to hear it. Well, while they in there talking or whatever about the shit, Jimmy comes in, and everybody else but Billy is mad about him being around. And she like, y'all, it's cool, leave him be. So at this point, everybody, ends up not becoming friends with Jimmy, but they all end up, you know, talking to Jimmy, and they all laugh and kiki, and Billy lets everybody know, if you ain't ready, if you ain't staying here to get high, you gotta go, because the party about to start. So they all getting high, they all having a good time. Well, Jimmy's the only one who wasn't high yet, so they get him high. The dude shoot him up, and he goes on a roller coaster ride. And this is where we get to see that Billy, her name is Eleanor, that she, as a child, went through a lot. Her mother kicked her out the house when she was young, uh, made her start selling herself when she was young, 'cause that's the only way she can afford to eat and live at that point, because her mama put her out. So Jimmy gets to see Billy's life through his own lenses on his roller coaster high. Well, because of that, um, kind of where you get to find out why Billie Holiday uses drugs and sex and men as her gateway, because that's the vice that she had growing up. That was the vice. So she's just comfortable with it. She knows it. Well, as she's continuing her tour, if you will, she stops to go use the bathroom in the middle of nowhere, and she hears screaming and hollering, and she goes to check it out, and it's a two little girls screaming and hollering, house burnt down behind them, and she just happens to look to her left, and it's a father struggling to get his wife down off of a tree. And the emotional roller coaster that happened in that scene, I won't do it any just trying to explain it. You really truly would have to see that part of the movie yourself, because that was a roller coaster trip. Like, everybody was spazzing. Billy wanted to just all she wanted to do was try to get high to alleviate the thought process of it, but Jimmy wasn't trying to let her get high. And like, it was a lot. It was a lot. That scene was a lot, which is what fueled the anger in her so much that it made her do Strange Fruit. It ended up making her sing that song. It made her sing Strange Fruit. And Agent Anslinger's like, yo, we need to nail her. So you need to do something so we can nail this bitch. Like, come on, man. So Billy overheard the conversation between Anslinger and Jimmy, and she's like, so you reporting back to him? Did you tell him that we got you high? Did you tell him this? Did you tell him that? And he like, nah, because I ain't really. At this point, Jimmy done fell in love with Billy. And it's more than just the fantasy for him with Billy. He actually fell in love with her, and she felt it. She felt it because a little intimate scene they had, you could tell she felt something she ain't never felt before, that she feel like it's strange to have. So so you could tell she's not used to being treated with respect or loved or or gentle, as they say a woman should be treated. So when Jimmy was showing her all those things, she was okay in the moment, but over time it spooked her. She felt like it was unreal and it wasn't going to stick for long. So she took the coward's way out, and she called Louis McKay, and she had him come pick her up, and she left with Louis McKay. She left Jimmy and her band, excluding Miss Freddie and Rosalind. She left all of them behind, except those two. And Lester Young, he was like, "Damn, I thought we was family. You gonna leave me out here too, bitch? Like, come on now." Like he like, "I'm sick of your shit. I've been around you for too long, and I'm sick of your shit. You keep doing the same shit. I'm sick of it." So because of Jimmy's involvement with Billie and publicly too, he ends up getting demoted, aka getting fired, and getting kicked off Billie's case at this point because he didn't do what Ed Slinger asked him to do. Instead, he fell in love with Billie and surprisingly didn't get addicted to heroin, but he fell in love with Billie. And at this point, three things that happened in Jimmy's life that he didn't anticipate. He fell in love with Billie. She got him high on heroin, and he got to sit there and watch her live her best life with her new man, Louis, knowing it was supposed to be him. Well, we're going to fast forward because it is a lot of this movie that I'm about to skip anyway. So she goes through the ups and downs with Louis McKay. She goes through the things with Tallulah Bankhead. And she goes through the things, ups and downs with Jimmy because Jimmy, even he still tried to be there for her and show her love. Even while she was living her best life with Louis, he eventually tried to come back and fight for her, and they fought. Him and Louis McKay, they fought. Louis McKay was even being interviewed by Ann Slinger to try to turn against Billie Holiday, and like it was a lot. And just like they got to Monroe, they got to Louis too. And it just was a lot. But Jimmy still was trying to figure out how to make his presence felt for her. So in September 16th of 1954, she has a show at Miss Kelly's in Chicago. And this is how you know that Louis McKay has kind of started to turn heads, because this is where Jimmy, who's there with a whole nother lady, and him end up having a fist fight at because of Billie. And at this point, this is where Louis and him, after they fought, this is when Louis tells Jimmy, "You can have her. You want her that bad? You can have her. I'm good." So Louis disappears. They're still married. Her and Louis are. But he just disappears. And hold on. Where was I at? Oh, so after that scene, we end up going back to her interview with old buddy boy, and he asked Billie what happened to Louis McKay, like, cause y'all was in so much love, what happened to him, and how do you feel like the FBI is after you over a song, and how do you feel like they're not over and how do you know they're not after you over drugs? And she pretty much tells him, one, me and Louis are very much so married, but we're separated. Um, we just we're not together. We just married still. He's still around, but he ain't around. And she pretty much tell him that she know it's not about no damn drugs. It's got to be about the song. Because if it had anything to do with my supplier, you wouldn't be penalizing me for doing the drug. You'll send me to a rehab. You'll try to force me to get clean. But instead you keep sending me to prison like you're trying to chastise me or something. So it's clearly not about the drugs. That's just your excuse to get me off the streets and stop me from singing Strange Fruit. And Reginald Devine is like, well, why you just don't stop singing the song? If the song is getting you in trouble, just stop singing it. It's not the end of the world. Just stop singing the damn song. And she didn't even say nothing, but her tears said 1,000 words. Her crying real tears when he said that was an implication of, if I stop singing it, that lets them know that they won. That lets them keep putting my voice on mute. That lets them know that they're able to tell black people to shut up about what we're going through. And that's just not something she's like, I'm willing to stand for. So as she's chilling with Jimmy, because at this point, her and Jimmy now a thing. Jimmy Fletcher and her, they now a thing. And as she's chilling with Jimmy, she lets him know she found out the Prez. That's what they call Lester Young. They call him Prez. She found out that he died, and how his wife don't want her around. She don't want her to sing. She don't want her to do nothing at his funeral. Just stay away. And she also lets him know that she's not in great condition either, because she's got cirrhosis of her liver. And after she lets him know that, she starts coughing real bad and starts coughing up a bunch of blood. And at this point now she's rushed to the hospital. And this is where she spends her days. Her last few days is in the hospital. But they're spent with Jimmy. Well, Anslinger shows up to the hospital and he talks so much shit to try to talk shit about Jimmy. And Jimmy shuts his ass down because he's like, I ain't here to hear that bullshit. Well, they pretty much let him know they're going to figure out a way to nail her again. Not understanding that this woman is dying. They don't give a damn. They're still harassing her while she's dying in the hospital. And while she's there, her and Jimmy fall asleep and Louis McKay comes and Agent Sam is there, ironically. But Agent Sam is there as well. And Louis and Jimmy are about to fight again, but Agent Sam makes him stop. He tells Jimmy to leave and let them have a private conversation. And when they leave, Louis McKay is trying to force her to sign some type of paperwork and trying to force her to talk to the feds. All the while, he know that's not something she's going to do. He's told him before, he can't force her to do nothing she don't want to do. So I don't get why he still kept trying that. But anyway, so Agent Sam ends up telling Jimmy, like, even though this woman's dying, they're going to try to plant drugs on her again to use that as an excuse to try to arrest her again, even though she's dying. To keep trying to make her look like a criminal. To keep trying to make her look like she's a drug addict, even though she's dying in this bed. They're still going to use that against her. So while she lay in bed, dying, they interview her. And they try to get her to tell who her suppliers are, right? And she busts out laughing because she like, I ain't giving you bitches shit. I ain't giving you nothing. Nada. Zilch. Zero. Nada ding. And they like, cool. So we wasted all this time messing around with you because you clearly aren't going to tell us what we want to know. So, cool. They leave out, sad-faced, busted and disgusted, but they so petty. They handcuffed this woman to her bed and charge her with possession of heroin or narcotics, if you will, while she's in the bed dying. So that's it's fucking sick, if you will. July 17th, 1959, Billie Holiday finally closes her eyes for the final moment and succumbs to her cirrhosis of the liver. She passes away at the age of 44. As she lay dying in that bed, they kept her handcuffed to her bed till she died, and after she died, they kept her handcuffed that entire time. So Jimmy tries to go home, breaks down in front of his door about Billie's passing. Anslinger becomes remains the FBI commissioner and for narcotics until he's about 70 when he retires. In 78, Strange Fruit was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. And then Time magazine called the song of the century. All this happened after she died. They waited till after she died to say, you know what? That is a damn good song. We're glad you did it. That's what they decided to do. But like I said, the kicker part is to keep somebody handcuffed that's dying. Can't do anything. She's too weak to do anything. To eat, to drink, to sit up on her own, to do anything. And they handcuffed her by her feet to the bed. So that's how the movie ends. Let's jump into the notes. So Billie Holiday always wore sleeves when she sang because of the scars on her arm from shooting up. That's part of the reason why. If you ever watched Billie Holiday sing or ever seen her out in public, she didn't wear the sleeves just for a fashion statement. She wore them to cover up her arms from when she used to shoot up heroin. And the damage it did to her skin, she didn't want people to see the scars. So that's why she would wear them. When she didn't wear them, it's because her skin was healed and the scars were gone. But for the most part, that's why she wore them. J. Edgar Hoover, whatever the fuck you want to call him, he remained the mastermind behind a lot of black people's convictions, especially people that had a voice, like Fred Hampton, Billie Holiday. The list can go on, but the point is, because I'm mentioning those as the two I did that movie on so far. Hell, he even had a hand in probably Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and all them. The issues that they went through. You never know. But he is the face to a lot of the problems. And his power trip that he had for people who wanted to keep the world safe, equal, and faceless, if you will. I mean, or raceless, if you will. He wasn't having that. When he sent, not even when he, I'm sorry, but when Anslinger, when he sent uh Jimmy on the road with Billie Holiday, I don't think he realized that he wasn't really going to help his case doing that, because Jimmy wasn't interested in busting Holiday for anything else, not the drugs, not nothing. When he realized that the power was in the song and not in the drugs, he knew that was just a ploy to keep getting her arrested. So he didn't do nothing but give her protection on the road. That's pretty much what he did. And I'm very curious if he knew that Jimmy didn't want to see Billie Holiday go down. I wonder if that was his way of trying to set Jimmy up to getting fired for not doing his job. I feel like that's what it was. But then too, I'm curious, how did they know what it took to get them to react as if they were, I hate using the term junkie, but as if they were junkies. I wonder how he knew how they knew to do. Did they go meet people who did drugs and ask them what it felt like? Like, I know you could do research, but to really embody the acting of someone who's high off of a narcotic is it's not an easy task to complete, even with makeup. Um, Jimmy was a strong man because beyond him, beyond him stepping into the righteous portion of knowing a portion, I'm sorry, of knowing that he did Billy wrong in the beginning by leading her on. And then on top of that, getting high off heroin for the first time and not becoming addicted to it, from what we can see, I guess. Falling in love with a woman he knows he really can't truly have in whole or in purity, and knowing that she's going to mess with other men, has been messing with other men, is messing with other men besides just her, and risking losing his job to feel that feel that he had of Billy. That's some strong shit to go through. So Jimmy was a strong man. He was wrong, but he was strong. Um, there's a picture of Billie Holiday, and one of her husbands. I'm assuming it either was her husband Joe Guy or Jimmy Fletcher. I couldn't see the picture good enough to make out who the gentleman was, but it was a real picture of her on her night on the nightstand. It wasn't a picture of Andrea Day pretending to be her and someone else pretending to be the husband. It was really a real picture of them. I don't know if it was Louis McKay, if it was Joe Guy, or if it was Jimmy. It could have been one of the three of them because the damn show was in Monroe. Um, oh, I know why I put James up there, but yeah, that's just a few little things that I noticed when it came to the show, to the movie, should I say? But because we're coming down on the last 10 minutes of the show, so let me hurry up. I remember I said I was going to go back to this because I wanted to point this out. So Jimmy Monroe or James Monroe, um, is Billie Holiday's first husband. She married him in 1941, divorced him in 1947. They were married for 6 years. Then she married Joe Guy in 1951 and divorced him in 1957. They were married for 6 years as well. She ended up marrying Louis McKay that same year in 1957, and they ended up getting divorced due to her death in 1959. Um, right. Anyway, so when I was mentioning how she was messing around with Joe, she was messing around with Joe during her and James Monroe's marriage because they was married in 41 to 47, and she had been dealing with Joe that entire time that her and Monroe was married. And then while she was married to Joe, she was messing around with Jimmy. And while she was married to Louis McKay, she was messing around with Jimmy. And it's interesting because it never brought up anything in regards to her and Jimmy besides them getting high together. So you wouldn't have really known that she was married unless you Googled it. You wouldn't have known she was married to none of these men. You had to look this up. But that's why I was saying the timeline of stuff. You could tell that she was messing around with this man while she was married to this man. Okay, so for the final part, the concluding the film, this is where we rate the movie out of a five category rating scale out of 5 points for a grand total of 25 points. I'm gonna be completely honest. For storyline, cast, relativeness, enjoyableness, and learning, it got a 5 across the board. This was a 25 out of 25 for me because of a few things. One, I didn't know much about Billie Holiday, besides the fact that she was a jazz singer, blues singer. You know, you can label her how you choose to, but she sung that real shit. And to see the movie depicted the way it was, you kind of get the opportunity to see her, even though she's been gone for years, but you get the opportunity to see her. And I think it's pretty important to point out that Andrea Day did a good job depicting her. Just as well as we give Angela Bassett credit for playing Tina Turner, I think Andrea Day needs so much respect for playing Miss Billie Holiday, just as Queen Latifah deserves respect for playing Miss Bessie Smith. They played the hell out of them parts. So the storyline to me, of course, gets a 5 because of that. Cast, I think everybody that they picked was phenomenal characters. They all did their job. They all embodied the roles, and they played the characters to a T, to the point where you had that Angela Bassett moment with Tina Turner with this movie, especially with the Billie Holiday role, especially with her role. Relativeness, I gave it a 5 because a person who goes through struggle and they search and search for that same high they got the first time that they felt relief is very common, whether it's substance abuse or just some type of high that you're chasing when it came to your career. And then the ability to not want to just lay down and take what they give you type of attitude. Billy really embodied that, and I feel like that this is a movie that any and everyone should be able to connect with and hold a clear understanding of the film. And like I said, the relativeness of this is really true to anyone, whether you're an addict or a non-addict. This is very true to anyone. Um, and then too, like I said, I'm black, so the primary focus of the movie was the simple fact that they didn't want a black woman telling a black people's story, pretty much. Um, Enjoyableness, I had to give it a 5. It had me captivated the entire time. I really truly enjoyed watching the film. I didn't even have to rewind anything back. And I watched this film before I shot today's episode. I watched this film like a week or so before I shot this episode. And a lot of it I remembered without even reading the notes because this movie actually captivated me. Now, of course, I use my notes to stay on track because if I didn't, I'd be still telling y'all about the movie. I'd be telling y'all every nook and cranny if I could. And like I said, the learning level was a 5. Throughout this movie, Billie really had a lot of learning to do, and unfortunately, her life was cut short. But she learned a lesson, but it was already kind of too late in a sense because she had already been diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. She was already pretty much dying. But one thing she stood on is that she was not giving up her stance on black people being treated fairly. She was not giving up her stance on black people being loved and appreciated and shown the right support that their counterparts is getting. She stood on business. Okay. So for me, that's why I would say this was a 25 out of 25. This was a damn good movie. If you haven't seen this movie yet, you should definitely watch it. If you made it this far, leave some type of jazz instrument in the comments. If you made it this far. And that goes for you too, Mr. Bellamy. I know you usually comment and everything, but do me a favor, leave some type of jazz symbol in the comment section. Okay? But thank you guys as always for viewing. I appreciate all of the love. I can't wait to bring this new adventure to you guys. I do want to apologize in advance. I have really been slacking when it's come to like the Wednesday skits. So I'm gonna do my best with maybe creating something fresh for you guys every Wednesday. Until I can get Anguish shot and edited and ready to go. But I have been slacking on my skits for that type of stuff. It's not because I necessarily want to give up, but it's just because I've really been slacking, and I apologize. But I do thank you guys for tuning in, watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe. And always argue with your mama, because I ain't gonna argue with you. Peace out.